Pocono Raceway's Tricky Triangle hosted the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series for 500 miles on Sunday. The debut of double file restarts was a big story, but the biggest was the guy who started last, finishing first.
Tony Stewart assuming his position towards the back of the field.
Tony Stewart, who's now just moved up into the second spot.
Stewart flying right now.
First down and away will be Tony Stewart. He's going to try to stay out there and last one more lap.
Tony Stewart has won for the first time as an owner.
Tony Stewart became the first owner driver to win a NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race since Ricky Rudd in 1998. Starting in the last row and finishing first, Carl Edwards led a race-high 103 laps, ended up second. The final standings shuffled up a bit after fuel mileage came into play. Not all that unusual at Pocono. We'll recap the strategies that realign the results, review the restarts, and more with our roundtable panel next on NASCAR Now. From the Home Depot Garage Studios, we welcome you to the hyper-miling edition of the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable. With the price of gas going up at the pumps, striving to conserve your fuel, not a bad thing. It was a really good thing for Tony Stewart at Pocono on Sunday. We'll discuss that and more with our roundtable panelists, Marty Smith, Boris Said, and Ricky Craven. Ricky just cleaning up the water he spilled on the table just as we were coming on the air. What was the biggest headline of the racing weekend for you? What'd you think?
Well, I mean, it's just really impressive what Stewart and those guys are doing. It's, you know, I think a lot of us anticipated them to struggle. I mean, even Carl Edwards even said, I didn't think he'd get it done. And they're the points leaders, and he's got to win. It's just impressive.
For me, it was Kyle Busch smashing that guitar, the most coveted trophy in Nationwide Series. I hated seeing that.
I think we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
You know, for me, Alan, if this was a test, these guys clearly passed the test, but I think the message delivered was to everyone else. They took the point lead last week in Dover. This week, they sent the message, which was, we can win with our backup car. That's a strong statement.
Let's show you how Tony Stewart's weekend unfolded up at Pocono Raceway. As the point leader, he got the pole when qualifying rained out, but Saturday didn't go so well.
Missed it by that much.
Yeah. So they rolled out the backup car. What, missed like 5 minutes of practice? Pretty impressive.
Stewart said it was quicker, too. Pretty impressive.
So Sunday, Tony goes to buckle in that car, lines up on the pole, but has to drop on the pace laps to the back, takes the green, running in 42nd place. He didn't stay there for long.
He doesn't sneak up on it, does he? He just it's either on or off with Tony.
Picked up 21 spots in the first 10 laps. This is Tony passing Ryan Newman to take the 10th spot. He would lead for the first time at lap 77 when Carl Edwards pitted under the green. So Stewart leads his first lap just before halfway. He didn't stop there. Tony going to get third place here from Greg Biffle at lap 110. So up into the top three. Then at lap 128, he goes by somebody else for second.
Matt Kenseth, and he did this all day long, not with any two-tire stops, with sheer speed on the racetrack.
So Tony trails Carl Edwards by nearly 3 seconds when caution comes out for debris from David Stremmy's car. And on the ensuing pit stop, something important happened.
That first championship pit stop, by leading the championship, he could just get right out. Carl Edwards had to go around Kyle Busch there, and he beat him out by that much.
Stewart actually called this the turning point for the 14 car after the race. It absolutely won the show.
So Tony officially taking the lead, by the way, when Jeff Gordon pitted later in that caution, leads the field to the restart with 35 laps to go. Really important is that he opened up a 5-second lead.
He did, and it really came back to help him toward the end. And when it looks this good, it's not. It's just that he's working at it, and this car is strong.
So Tony, with about 10 to go, has to start backing off the pace to save fuel to get to the finish. But good news for him, so don't the guys in second and third chasing him. The fuel holds out. Tony Stewart gets to the checkered flag and scores the victory.
We just had a really good car all day. I mean, we had a car that we were consistently, you know, in the top three, I think, speed-wise all day, and we're able to run guys down. I mean, we were able to stay out a couple of laps longer than everybody, it seemed like, all day. But, you know, it was fun, though, knowing that you had a car that you could do that with. And you know, there at the end there, we had an awesome pit stop. I mean, our guys been doing such a great job all year, and you know, come in second and come out with the lead like that. I mean, that was really the turning point for us there at the end. And you know, once we got that lead and were able to hold Carl off, you know, they went into fuel mode and tried to conserve. And as soon as we got a little bit of a lead, we were able to do the same thing. So, you know, it's just at that point listening to Darian, and he knows what pace we need to run. And, you know, he just kept backing me down when I'd get going too hard or too quick. He would tell me he needed more, and we'd slow down a little more.
Tony's just a great driver. He knows exactly what to do to save fuel mileage. We were just calling out his interval to second and third place, and we knew as soon as they started pushing, we were going to start pushing too. We couldn't risk losing the win to save fuel mileage, but as long as they were laying back, we were able to lay back and save a ton of fuel. He made an extra lap, did his burnout, pulled into victory lane. You can't ask for anything better than that.
It would have been a shame to lose it because of fuel mileage, so it's nice to be able to I don't know how much we had left, and if you know, I saved enough, whether I needed to or not, it remains to be seen. But you know, just to know that you can if you have to, that's half the battle.
Tony Stewart's off to a better start this season than in either of the years he won the championship. 10 top 10 finishes to this point, including his Pocono win. Tony has finished no worse than third in 5 of his last 7 starts. Pretty amazing. You gonna be able to read those notes you made over there?
I got no problem. I do have sleep deprivation, but as far as reading.
Note papers dripping wet off onto the table. We'll help you clean it up. Agree or disagree? Having to go to the backup car is no excuse for a championship caliber team.
It's certainly no excuse. And he proved, I mean, they proved it. I was really impressed with that. And maybe I shouldn't be, but I looked up the notes on that race car. It had never finished better than 17th prior to Sunday. And he drives from the back and wins in it. Yeah. Crazy.
I mean, I'm really impressed with that team. Not only did they have to get Tony Stewart's backup car out, Ryan Newman had problems all day long. They had to figure out what was wrong with the car. They made 6 pit stops to fix a bad spark plug. He got caught speeding on pit road twice, and he still finished 4th.
Even knowing it was a backup car, Tony's charge from the back was very impressive. Gave a lot of credit to his team for their entire effort on the weekend, not just getting the backup car out and on the track, but we saw that pass on pit road on Carl Edwards turned out to be the winning pass.
Yeah, it was amazing. I think that Tony is taking a step back and saying, I know these guys are good, but I'm going to test them. I want to see how good they are. And he put them to the test here. This was the game changer.
That pit stop was huge because it enabled Stewart to set the pace. He could run his own pace, and everyone else in the field, namely Carl Edwards, had to gauge his progress off of Stewart's progress, and that was so clutch. And I also look at the way Stewart handled that adversity on Saturday as being clutch. That entire organization took their key off of him. He was calm, collected. That's the way the team looked at that and said, okay, we can do it.
Driving to save fuel. It's a topic my driver buddies here really love. But for a racer, it's just not an easy thing to do. We watched Tony from that onboard camera do a few different things on Sunday than perhaps we were expecting.
Yeah, I learned a few things. I mean, on Sunday on the in-car, when you were watching it, he was actually pushing the clutch in and coasting through the corners at 180 miles an hour. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but when you let the clutch out, sometimes it could lock the rear end and you could spin out. And I was really impressed with that.
Boris, I agree. We talked about it a lot. That oval racing, tri-oval racing for this application is about repetition. Every time you go back to the corner, you remember what you did the lap before. So when he pushes in the clutch, I said to myself, this is remarkable. How does a guy do this at 180 miles an hour? I mean, is he testing himself? And he's not losing any distance to the second place car. Tony Stewart engineered this win. I've always been impressed and admired his talent, but this was just a next step. I mean, I was very, very impressed.
I know one ththing, he's not giving up how he did it. Yeah. He was asked incessantly after the race, how'd you do it? What'd you do? What was your strategy? Not telling.
Well, it was impressive, certainly victory on the part of Tony and his entire team. By the way, Bobby Hutchins, the director of competition for Stewart-Haas Racing, going to join us live via satellite at the bottom of the hour. Up next on the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable, many drivers had obstacles to overcome to post the results Sunday, persevering at Pocono in just a minute. The debut of double file restarts. How did it work? How did it change strategy for drivers and teams? We'll talk about it. And later, Kyle Busch's Nationwide Series win at Nashville. Big victory, though his victory celebration hit a sour note with some. That and more coming up. By the way, what about with you? Our Sports Nation poll question on this Monday. What do you think of Kyle's post-race celebration from Saturday night? Log on to ESPN.com and vote results later in this NASCAR Now. Several drivers had to overcome various obstacles to get good finishes Sunday at Pocono. Carl Edwards' team doesn't get the 99 car full of fuel on a lap 77 stop while leading, so he has to pit short at lap 101, but gets a break when the caution waves just 3 laps later for debris. Carl stays on the track and ends up leading and has to stretch the fuel trying to catch Tony Stewart and hold off Jimmy Johnson for second. Jeff Gordon's team stayed on track when others pitted at lap 159 with rain in the area, but it quickly cleared, so Gordon had to pit, falling from first to 22nd. He rallied to finish fourth. Then there was Ryan Newman, who reports engine troubles at lap 79, eventually makes 6 pit stops to diagnose and repair a broken spark plug, also gets penalized for speeding on pit road twice, and then tops off the fuel at lap 164, comes back through and finishes 5th. Nothing happened on his day. Same with Jimmy Johnson. Nothing happened on his day either. Jimmy coming to pit road at lap 104 when caution waves. He doesn't get past the commitment line before the light turns red, closing pit road, so Jimmy has to go to the back of the line for the restart. He races back into the top 10, then ends up in a duel with Carl Edwards for second in the closing laps, though runs out of fuel on the last lap and finishes 7th. What a day for these guys.
I feel really good about my performance. A little bit all right about the result. Seconds, so my buddy used to say it's kind of like kissing your sister. I don't have a sister, but I can imagine. Tony did a great job, and my Aflac guys, I mean, they prepared. The fastest race car here is really close with Tony. There at the end, I thought he was going to run out of fuel. I didn't think I was racing him. So they've done a really good job over there, and my hat's off to him for their first points win, but ours is coming.
I'm smiling for a couple of different reasons. One is because we almost won the thing there if it had rained any harder. And the other thing is that it actually helped us. It helped us make it on fuel and not have to conserve, and we finished 4th. I mean, we were going to finish 4th, you know, in any other circumstance, so that all that worked our favor.
Thank God it's Pocono, because we needed our time on pit stops with a long caution flag lap to get us first the entire distributor cap and spark plug wires changed, and then finally they singled it out to the number 7 spark plug. So a great effort. Unfortunately, it put us back, and we fought back and had a good car in the end. Just didn't have enough track position.
I didn't see a flagman or a light or anything. I don't even know where it is. So I came to the pits, and unfortunately, I guess the pits were closed at that point in time. We were behind. But we had a great car, drove up through there to the top 5 somewhere, and ran out of gas there at the end trying to get by Carl for second.
So with Stewart's win and all that other stuff we just detailed, here are the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series championship standings now. Stewart leading Jeff Gordon by 71 points and Jimmy Johnson by a $1.03. Carl Edwards, the big mover of the week, climbing 5 positions, while Denny Hamlin slid back 5 to 12th, just a single point ahead of Mark Martin for the last chase place. Let's look at some of these things individually. Now, a lot of guys had things to overcome on the day. Start with Carl Edwards' pit stop at lap 77. What happened?
Well, they had trouble getting the fuel in the car, spilled it, kind of like what I demonstrated earlier. Yeah. But the fact is, he kept his composure. That was amazing to listen to him, because I've heard the flip side of that, and I've been on the flip side of that, but him keeping his composure, I felt, was critical along with that.
But it was actually lucky for him. It was lucky for him, because that made him having to pit earlier, and when he pitted under green, and the caution came out 3 laps later. So that's perfect. Then he was leading the race.
This race is always so wacky when it comes to fuel. I mean, invariably, odd fuel strategy plays in.
But why does it seem at Pocono that after the fact it seemed like it was strategic? Like, oh, they knew what they were doing.
Well, just the way the day unfolded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve Letart's decision to leave Jeff Gordon out on the track under caution at lap 159 when it was raining, which eventually set them back to 22nd when it stopped. Hindsight thoughts?
Well, they've done it before. I remember a couple years ago, Jeff won a race in the rain at Pocono. I would do it too.
You can go to the well too many times, though, can't you?
It worked for David Rudiman at Charlotte. I mean, if it would have rained a little harder, I'm sure they would have called it.
Bottom line is, I mean, he had a great finish.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, with the odd fuel strategy and whatnot, why not?
And you just heard Jeff say, you know, it kind of forced them and helped them with their fuel strategy. I talk about persevering. Ryan Newman's team.
Wow.
6 pit stops for that one issue at one point to repair the spark plug problem.
That was amazing. I mean, to find that spark plug and to change it in a hot motor, that guy deserves a medal.
And it also speaks to Ryan Newman, the driver. His focus right now, I think, is back to form. You know?
I'm going to disagree a little bit there. He got caught speeding on pit road twice, Ryan. I mean, if you didn't get caught there, you might have been a little better.
You want to punish a driver? Put him on 7 cylinders at Pocono. You'll speed on pit road too.
What it speaks to is just how long that track is.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes 1,000 years to make a pace lap, so those guys had time.
It's like a road course.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
You could
Same
land
thing.
a single engine plane on any.
How many tracks could they do that? 3?
Well, that's the thing.
Or maybe Indy, maybe 4.
Alan, you could land.
4 tracks.
I could, yeah, actually, yeah. Even me. At any other oval track, they would have been in big trouble.
Absolutely, they would have gone
But that
laps down.
one place, and maybe Indy.
Maybe a road course.
Yeah, an oval track. I
Which is
said
the
oval
opposite.
track.
He got caught up in the
That thing
water.
didn't have caffeine in it, did it? All right. Jimmy Johnson getting caught by the pit road closed light at lap 104. I guess my feeling is, nice try by Chad. A couple seconds made a huge difference here.
Yeah, and there's no, it was a mistake. It was a big mistake. And I know this. Don't expect NASCAR to change anything. Johnson didn't see the light.
Yeah.
And he still had the speed to come back and battle for second place right at the end of the race if he just had a little more fuel.
Yeah, you're committed or not committed. He was committed.
Yeah. I mean, you used to be at Pocono when you thought the caution was going to come out. You called your guy onto pit road. You make your pit stop before the pit road is closed. You're back on the track. Everybody else pits. You're the leader. A couple of seconds there was all the difference.
Oh, yeah. He looks like a hero without those 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier today.
And he can afford to gamble because all he needs right now, he wants wins. He wants those 10 bonus points going into the chase.
And it's always the little things.
Yeah. So
Still almost won.
Couple seconds we'd have been talking about what a great call it was, Chad, and all that stuff. It just, they still work their way back. And again, we're racing for second when they ran out of fuel. Now, the Pocono fuel situation left some who ran up front all day with lower finishes at the end, while it worked out right for others. On the bad end, Matt Kenseth, Mark Martin, Greg Biffle, and Kyle Busch. Those guys all pitted for fuel under green with 15 and 13 to go.
Those Roush boys needed it so bad. They've been behind this year. Each one of their drivers has said it time and again that they need to pick up their performance. They did so on Sunday and still couldn't get the finish.
Then there was Casey Kane, who overcame earlier troubles to run inside the top 5, then had to pit with 9 to go, ran out of fuel, spun off the final corner. Fuel thing didn't work out for him, almost did.
We didn't see Kyle Busch all day long near the front. That was unusual.
Pocono's kryptonite for Kyle Busch.
And A.J. Allmendinger.
That's the hard luck story of the race. He ran so good all day long in the top 6 and the top 7. Surely it was going to be his best finish at Pocono, and he came up short on fuel.
Talk more about him in just a second. On the good end, David Ruderman, Marcos Ambrose, Juan Pablo Montoya, Sam Hornish. They all got top 10 finishes. Ruderman 3rd, Ambrose 6th in particular. They ran well enough to put themselves in position and got the strategy right to post a good number.
You got to get something to these drivers. They managed the race. They didn't make any mistakes, and they're a big part of the equation.
So Montoya winding up with a top 10 at day's end, and a nice job for him. And again, Sam Hornish also came through with another top 10 finish. They found a way to do that fairly frequently of late. So Pocono tough on some where the fuel is concerned, but worked out better for others.
Well, it's not near as frustrating, as it was last year because we ran out. We wanted to go last year trying to do the same thing. So, it is what it is. I mean, it's you're lining yourself up for a good finish if you just roll out of the gas and you just try to maintain the guy that's behind you and you try to gain a little bit on the guy in front of you without doing too much, and kept rolling out earlier and earlier and earlier, and to the point where, geez. The thing was, I'd never get back into gas in the thing until way off the corner. So, had a good airstream machine. Rodney, played his cars right and got us another good finish.
Tony did a great job whatever he did, shutting it off. Carl was pretty good at saving fuel. We've seen that in the past. But, that's a Hendrick engine in Tony's car, and mine ran out just coming off of turn 3. So, but I was pushing hard. I heard he was shutting the engine off in the lead, so that's pretty cool. That's a great way to get a win.
We were running good at the end, just it's too late. 23rd is about. Maybe we should have finished a few spots better if you guys got us on fuel mileage, but besides that, it's about where we ran at the Home Depot title today. I feel like I'm going to have a better piece when we come back here next time.
Numbers, Marcos Ambrose gained 13 positions over the final 30 laps on Sunday to get his 6th place money. Second best finish of 2009 for him. Juan Pablo picked up 12 spots thanks to the strategy. Sam Hornish gained 14 for his 3rd top 10 in the last 7 races. Coming up, the debut of double file restarts. We break down how it worked and what it changed, both strategically and competitively. And later, the man who oversees putting those competitive cars together for the Stewart-Haas team, competition director Bobby Hutchins, will join us to talk about their incredible accomplishments.
A new double file restart shootout style.
Double file restart.
How cool is this? It's like watching them throw the green flag and start the race every time.
Green flag. Green back in the air here at Pocono, and they are on the gas. Great restart.
Sunday's Pocono event, the first race where NASCAR's double file shootout style restarts were used. 5 restarts, each time the leader choosing the outside lane, which proved why, since the leader only lost the top spot once during those restarts. Reaction to the new procedure from Pocono was what?
Double file restarts were fine. They helped me out quite a bit. I got a couple good restarts and got back up through there after we had, got the car fixed. So it was all right for me.
It was nice knowing that every car around me I was racing for position. That was really nice to know. So I'm very happy with that.
The good thing is, and everybody knew it was going to be an adjustment period, and it still is. I mean, it worked great today. To the best of my knowledge, there weren't any hiccups in the, with people not understanding where they were supposed to be or anything. But I thought it was great. I mean, it was awesome not having to deal with lap cars on restarts.
That's fun. I like the double file restarts. I thought about something. I think it'd be better if the leader got to start by himself on the front row, and second and third shared the second row. I think that'd be more fair. It would still bring the level of excitement for the fans that the NASCAR is trying to bring.
It's a couple of times it worked for you, and sometimes it worked against you. So I mean, all in all, I think for the first time doing it, I think it went pretty smooth. So we'll get the hang of it more and more as we go along. But it was a good run, and we might as well get used to it. That's the way it's going to be.
Well, anytime you implement a new race procedure, there's the opportunity for competitor confusion, but it seemed to me like things went pretty smoothly on Sunday.
Yeah, I think so, but I think for a driver, under the old system, it was pretty easy, to get on a restart and not really gain or lose a position. But now it's a lot more intense for a driver. You can either make some ground or lose some ground, depending on how it shakes out. But after a couple laps, it's just going to be back to normal racing anyway.
I think there's another dimension for us that you and I can appreciate, having been in that position, is you want to restart next to somebody who's got the same thing to lose that you do. When you line up on the outside of guys who are down laps, well, they're down laps for a reason. Very uncomfortable sometimes.
Sometimes, but usually they give you the benefit of the doubt, those guys. Now you're racing.
Point, though. I mean, that's the key point, is that the competitors enjoy being around someone who has the exact same thing to lose, and plus the fans love it. And another point I think that needs to be made here is that it's the first true indication that NASCAR is willing to be pliable. They're willing to look at the program and the product and say, okay, let's try to fix this. Let's try to make it better in small doses, and this was the first dose. It's awesome.
And I think we all agree it will produce the desired results going forward, especially you get to a place like Michigan. Whoa. It's going to be big. Up next, one of the key players behind the success of Stewart-Haas Racing, Director of Competition Bobby Hutchins, joins us live via satellite to talk about their win. And later, Kyle Busch finally didn't have any bad luck at the end of a Nationwide Series race, though his victory celebration seems to have attracted some attention.
This place is tough to figure out. What you do on pit road is very, very important, but try not to run out of gas, because if you do, you're not going to make it back around.
Let's get it done today. 1, 2, 3, win!
Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to Pocono. Showing everybody what kind of a team we are. Going out there and getting that backup car out.
Tony Stewart, who should be on the pole, will actually go to the rear. He crashed his primary car in practice.
I'll make up for this mistake, guys. I'll get us back up here having some fun here. Info, but we appreciate it. We're a team deal. Bring us home a little triangle trophy.
Getting ready to go 200 laps around this 2.5-mile track.
Quickly, one car is already off the pace, and Jenny Hamlin going nowhere.
Nothing.
Just one lap into the race, we get a chance to see the new double file restart shootout style in action.
P5 inside. Where do we start? What?
The green flag is in the air.
Jimmy Johnson breaks out of line. He'll sweep around teammate Jeff Gordon, take the #1 position.
Top 4 cars running about the same speed.
It's a 3-man free-for-all on the Long Pond straightaway. Carl Edwards to the inside of Jimmy Johnson. Edwards to the lead.
Is there anybody on the track that's coming that's faster? The 48's hitting this close to you, but it still looks like you're faster. Fall in behind him and try to run good laps.
Tony Tony Stewart has got it wound up, and he is charging to the front.
Good lap. You are the man. I'm working on it. I mean, it's been pretty consistent. Looking good on that 14, 2.6 second lead on him.
Caution is on the speedway. Just a few light sprinkles out here in turn number 3.
Man, we gotta go for 4 tires here and plan on finishing this race. Go ahead and pit with him. Go ahead and pit with him. 4 tires, nice and smooth now. 3, 2, 1. Get it full. Yeah, all the way, go, 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 go. Dig, boy, dig.
First down and away will be Tony Stewart. His team gets him out first.
That's the way to do it, boys. Save fuel. Save fuel. Can we make it? We are really, really close. I'll take care of it.
Tony Stewart banking on enough Sunoco Racing fuel on board that Chevrolet to take him to victory lane.
But you got a 1 second lead. You're about a 1/10 and a half faster than he is right now. Save all you can.
Tony Stewart is turning the engine off halfway down the front stretch, and he's coasting the car to turn 1.
I hate this.
Carl Edwards running in the second spot, also conserving fuel.
We'll make it on fuel. We just won't pass that 14. All right, guys, you're going to have to save a lot for me. I'm backing it down.
The gamble just might pay off for Tony Stewart.
Here he comes for the first time as an owner-driver. Tony Stewart has won.
God, I'm proud of you guys. Woo! You make me look like a damn genius in here. You are a genius, dude. We don't tell you how to save fuel.
Tony Stewart becoming the 5th driver owner to take the checkered flag in a cup race at Pocono. Prior to Stewart, the last to do it, Jeff Bodine, 1994. Alan Kowicki, Darrell Waltrip, and Richard Petty, the others. Pretty fine company to be in, indeed. Creating Stewart-Haas Racing out of what was the Haas CNC team has been a lot of work that's paying off with 2 wins in the last month. And one of the men responsible for that, one of the key players, joins us now via satellite from their team shops. Bobby Hutchins, Director of Competition, just back from a team test session earlier today. Bobby, congratulations and thanks for the time. Can you put into words for me how you feel about seeing what this organization you dug in with about 7-8 months ago, what it's accomplished already?
It's been awesome so far, Alan. I mean, everybody here at Stewart-Haas has played a big part in this, and we're all here. Tony Stewart kind of orchestrated putting all this together with us, and Darian Grubb, his crew chief's done an awesome job of putting together some people before we got here, and we've got a good group of people here with Tony Gibson, Ryan Newman, Matt Borland, Eddie Jarvis, Joe Custer. Everybody here, there's no egos. We all get along, and it's been a lot of fun, believe me.
Bobby, it's Boris said here, congratulations on what you did with Tony this weekend, and especially on Ryan Newman getting that car fixed.
Yeah.
But I have a question for you. When Tony Stewart wrecks a car in practice like that and you get the backup out, do you tell Tony to take it easy? Because it didn't look like it. He went out there and he was fast right away. So my question is, do you send another car down, or do you wait and see what happens in practice?
Well, we waited till the second session was over before we were going to make any decisions. Of course, we had the 39's backup car there also if we needed one, and Tony was pretty much going to take care of it in that second session anyway. But like you said, he went out and put up a number pretty fast on the board, and I think we ended up P6 there in that second practice, and he had a lot of confidence in the car. We made a couple of changes to it relative to the car that we crashed earlier, and everything pretty much from there was a go.
Congratulations.
Hey, Bobby, Ricky Craven,
Thank you.
Congratulations. Bobby, I'm fascinated with what you're doing, what everybody's doing over at with your 2 drivers and the race teams, and I'm curious, all that you've done and some of the great personalities you've been around, is there anything that you can compare this to in all your years of racing?
Yeah, I think the early days at RCR, I mean, I feel like this is a bunch of hardcore racers here, grassroots type racers, and I think we're all here for the trophy. I mean, we all want to go to the racetrack and we want to win. We want to have fun. We like to have a lot of fun around each other. I think we have as much fun off the track as we do in the shop here. And despite what people might think, I see a lot of similarities in Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt. So from that perspective, I feel like at home here, and it's been that way since the first day I walked in after Homestead.
Bobby, Marty Smith, congratulations, as everyone else has said. A huge victory for you guys. I find it really interesting that you guys are sort of a melting pot of so many elite organizations, Penske, Hendrick, Gibbs, etc., Childress, where you came from. But there was also so much youth there. Most of the guys that you inherited had never won a race. And Tony made the point on Sunday evening that you came in from day one and said, check your egos at the door. How vital has that sort of direction been for this organization?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot week to week. We kept about 75% of the Stewart-Haas, or excuse me, the Haas CNC employees that were here originally on board, and we brought in some key people in certain areas that we felt like may have been a little weak and tried to beef those areas up. But we've got a very underrated group of guys here, a bunch of good racers. We have an awesome engineering group led by Matt Borland, and I feel like right now we're only going to get better as we work together and learn each other's traits. And as you said, it's a pretty big melting pot of talent from all the organizations, and we like to use the term best practice, and we've done that since day one. Everything that we've sit down in a room to discuss or talk about in a meeting, we've tried to look at how we did it somewhere else, and we've tried to take that idea or that item and make it better so that our organization is better than what we're racing against.
Yeah, I think the first time I met Bobby was back at a modified race at Martinsville, probably pretty close to 30 years ago. You going to race in that Bristol event coming up in August?
We're planning on it, looking forward to it. It's going to be a big day for the modifieds up at Bristol, and I'm looking forward to it. If I get a little time, I might actually can get a car prepared, but we're planning on being there, and Stewart says he's probably going to go hang out with me, so we'll see what happens.
You didn't want me to say that 30 years ago part, I know, but I just had to anyway. Hey, Bobby, thanks for your time.
No, that's all right.
Congratulations to you and the entire organization on what you've accomplished so far, and best of luck as you continue.
Thank you, guys, but if you remembered it 30 years ago, you were there too, probably.
Yeah, I was. Yes, sir. Thanks, Bobby. Still to come, something new we're going to call Hot Laps, a quick spin through some racing topics to get our panel's opinions. But first, the Saturday Nationwide Series race in Nashville. Kyle Busch dominated again. He got to victory lane. Saturday, the NASCAR Nationwide Series ran 300 miles at Nashville Superspeedway. Kyle Busch started on the pole. He had led the most laps the preceding 3 straight races, didn't win, not this time. He led 173 of 225 laps and scored the victory, his 4th of the season. Brad Keselowski appeared a bit faster at times, but had to settle for 2nd. Championship standings, Carl Edwards finished 3rd, so Kyle leads Carl by 65 points, a gain of 25, the Nationwide Series at Kentucky this Saturday night here on ESPN2. Kyle obliterated the field during the race and did the same to the trophy afterwards. What's up with that?
A guy showing true emotion in victory lane. You know, it's great to be able to go out there and win races and stuff like that. And, you know, I talked to Sam and I talked to the Gibson people. They all thought it was great. It was fine. And so, you know, what it was to me is it was to give the pieces to the team, you know. And so, unfortunately, it didn't break on my part. But fortunately for Gibson, they've got a great product in their guitars. And so, you know, I ordered up 2 more of them actually for myself and for my crew chief. And the one from last night, it'll be going to the bandsaw tomorrow. We're going to cut it up and distribute. I'm going to sign the pieces for all the guys on the team last night, share it with them. They never get a chance to get a piece of the trophy after we win races, you know, so that's the best opportunity for them to get that.
Okay, so Saturday night, Sam Bass said, I'll be honest with you, I was stunned when it happened, but when I went to victory lane to take a picture with Kyle, he said there was no disrespect to me, the Speedway, or the sponsors. He just said he was going to give each one of his guys a piece of the trophy in the spirit of rock and roll, and as someone who appreciates rock and roll, he put on a show. But now Monday, Sam Bass says it's like raising a child. You start out with nothing, you finish it, and hope people will take care of it. And it was stunning, absolutely stunning, to see that thing destroyed within seconds of him getting it. This is much more than just a guitar somebody plays at a concert and beats the hell out of when they're done. It symbolizes something much bigger, much greater, and that's the part I don't think he thought of all the way through. As a spokesman for Kyle said when we talked with him this afternoon about this, he said, sounds like Sam changed his tune. Pardon the bad pun. Reactions, thoughts, opinions?
I was stunned. I didn't like it. I mean, that's one of the most coveted trophies in the Nationwide Series. It's a beautiful piece of equipment, and I didn't get it.
Ironically, Sam Bass was one of the first people I thought of when it happened. And I'll say this, that when he takes the checkered flag, he owns it. But I was more impressed with what he did on the racetrack than what he did in victory lane.
Very first point that needs to be made is, as Ricky said, he won the race. It's his property. He can do with it as he so chooses. I utterly hated what he did. Honestly, it makes me sick It lacked any authenticism whatsoever. I hated it.
I think he's rich enough where he should have bought all his crew their own guitar, full guitar, not rip apart in pieces.
Well, we didn't think of that. Where were you last week?
Here's what concerns me, that is getting more attention than the race.
Me too. And again, I mean, look, the guy can do whatever he wants.
Yep.
It just, I mean, it makes me sick.
He did do the coolest burnout I ever saw in my life, though.
True. This is true. Results from our Sports Nation poll, 17% loved it, 48% hated it, 35% didn't care, as far as what Kyle did in his post-race celebration on Saturday night. Now, the other highlight from Saturday was the bizarre crash on pit road between Brendan Gaughan and Mark Davis. Lap 190, Gaughan's coming in for a green flag pit stop. He's running pretty well in the race. Davis is about to go to the garage and retire from the race. Fate would have it that Gaughan's pit is right next to the opening to turn into the garage. Whose fault?
That was just a bad deal, but if Nationwide Insurance was judging it, it's Brendan's fault. He hit him from behind. But still, it was just one of those deals where he didn't think he was going to turn in right there.
Sure, Mark Davis needed to wait a lap or two longer, and you know, the result of this, you look back, what do you take from it? If you're Brendan Gaughan, you say, you have to understand who you're racing around. No disrespect to Mark Davis, but he's a kid. And Brendan Gaughan needed to take that into consideration.
Brendan has every right to be frustrated. He had a top 10 car. I mean, but he went off on the kid. I mean, he went off on him. And I don't know the etiquette. You guys know better than I do whether Mark's supposed to point, do jumping jacks or whatever to let him know that he's turning into the garage. But I don't think anybody's at fault.
Marty,
perfect storm.
Marty, you don't rehearse going to the garage area, right?
Yeah, I hope not.
Not part of the equation. So to defend him a little bit, you know, he probably was thinking about what a bad day he was having.
And I totally understand how Brendan Gaughan can get mad and lose it and be really angry. I think if you talk to him about it today, he'd probably be a little mellower about it and take some of the blame.
I described it to you guys earlier today as the perfect storm. Yeah. How at that one moment of a green flag pit stop when Brendan's coming down pit road, does he happen to have that one stall beyond the garage opening with a car that's going to turn in?
Brendan's lobbying for blinkers here.
Yeah, there you go. Up next on the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable, Hot Laps, a quick spin through several racing topics from the weekends. That when we come back in a minute. Wednesday Night Baseball presented by Smirnoff Ice, Red Sox, Yankees from Fenway. All you need to say. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. Next Sunday, 8 Eastern, be the Cardinals and the Indians interleague play. That is upcoming Major League Baseball on the ESPN family of networks. Now, Hot Laps, a quick trip through some topics from the weekend that we want to talk about. First of all, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Imagine we didn't get through a show without talking about Jr. Imagine he didn't get through a race without having another problem on pit road.
It's getting ridiculous. I mean, I can't explain it. I don't know anything except for the fact that he's pressing.
Yeah, the risk in all this, as we spoke last week, is in losing your team. And remember, the jackman and the right front tire changer are the first guys to step out. There's an element of trust that exists there that has to exist, and that's being questioned right now.
A lot of people had trouble at pit road at Pocono. I don't know why. I mean, we saw Jimmy Johnson go through his pit. We saw Michael Waltrip spin twice in the pits. I think Dale Jr. is just losing confidence right now. One good weekend, I think he's going to get it all back, and he's coming to a track this weekend where he's won it.
Next topic, Denny Hamlin. Has anyone in racing had a worse 2 weeks than Denny? The hard crash running second at Dover when the right front went down, then not even getting to turn 1 at Pocono.
Painful. For a driver who's had this kind of success at this track, to have this happen is like waking up on Christmas morning and there were no gifts under the tree. I mean, you know, it just doesn't seem right. And there's nothing he can do about it.
Especially for a driver at Pocono to go out and run 500 miles. When you have to do it when you're down 20 laps at the start and you have no hope of winning or doing good, it makes for a long day.
Mike Ford, his crew chief, called it unacceptable, and it is unacceptable. I mean, another part failure. They have all kinds of fuel pickup issues, it seems. I don't know. They got to fix the problem.
12th in points, 1 point ahead of Mark Martin for the last place in the chase, and plenty of time to go. Speaking of plenty of time, 500 miles at Pocono. Sunday, 3 hours, 36 minutes, 35 seconds. How long is too long?
I know that's a lot shorter than normal, but it's still too long.
You'd be an advocate of shortening that up.
I'm sure Tony Stewart's glad it was 500 miles. Carl Edwards probably wish it was 400 miles.
Racing 1,000 miles there in 7 weeks is asinine. 300 is plenty.
That's an interesting way of putting it. That's
all right. Carl Edwards, speaking of which, did not win Sunday. He finished second. Is Carl Edwards back to the race-winning, championship-contending form we saw at the end of 2008?
Yeah, I mean, he never went anywhere. They struggled with their finishes to start, but he had Texas 1, his pit crew let him down. He had Talladega 1, he got stuffed around backwards in the fence, which was his fault, I will admit that. He was running 6th at Darlington when he got together with his teammate Greg Biffle and ended up his worst finish of the year, 32nd. It's not as bad as it looks on paper. The 99's fine.
Yeah, but he hadn't had that authority that we saw at the end of last year, the way he closed the races. When you lead over half the laps, that's racing and driving with authority. So I say yes, he's back.
I think we'll see it this week, and I think we're going to see an epic battle at Michigan with the Roush Fenway cars and the Hendrick cars.
Epic.
Epic.
I like
Well said, Boris.
Note that. NASCAR went to the double file restarts. Much applause from all corners on that. What's their next big move? Opinions?
I'll follow Marty's, back to the hottest 10 laps of the year and say they need to give $1 million to win these things, and they need to give 100 points bonus for the winner. I mean, they got to put the incentive on winning and focus on winning.
No doubt, and we've heard, they're willing to be pliable with the new car. They're probably going to make some changes there. Depends on what it is. Everyone's calling for more front-end travel, but that costs so much money to the teams. I don't see that happening anytime soon.
I think the car is good. I mean, the racing's been really good with this new car. The passing's been really good. I don't see the complaints with the new car like we saw when it first came out the first year.
Here's what I hope their next big move is. Stop listing, for example, Sunday, Tony Stewart as having started first in the race reports. He started 42nd. The official records will show first. It diminishes what he accomplished.
He deserves credit for that.
By not adjusting the starting lineup based on him going to the back. Up next, news and notes and final thoughts on the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable. When we get done here on ESPN2, if you want to flip over to ESPN News, we'll have more from our NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable panel. We'll talk about Tony Stewart's big win on Sunday at Pocono, put it into a little further perspective. That's ESPN News right after this show. On Tuesdays, NASCAR Now, Carl Edwards will join us. Going to be testing and take a little bit of time to talk to us live via satellite from that test. That is on Tuesdays, NASCAR Now at 5 Eastern Time. Due to sponsorship issues, Red Horse Racing has shut down the #1 Truck Series team. That means defending series champ Johnny Benson is out of a ride. Casey Kane testing a Whelen Modified at Bristol on Monday with a bunch of other teams. Modified scheduled to race there Wednesday, August 19th. I got my ticket already. Sunday in Watkins Glen, Martin Truex's younger brother Ryan won the Camping World East race in a Michael Waltrip Racing Toyota. Strategy was a key in Friday night's Camping World Truck Series race at Texas Motor Speedway. Elio Castroneves hanging around the grid. They raced there the following night. Todd Bodine's team made the strategy call, felt he needed clean air, so he pitted with 64 to go and never stopped again. He had to do a little economizing late, seemed to be a theme of the weekend, but still had enough fuel to do the burnouts. Todd winning at Texas for the 5th time in the trucks. Matt Crafton finished second in the race and is the new Truck Series championship leader, up by 30 over Ron Hornaday. The trucks head off to Michigan shortly. And now on ESPN.com, despite starting in the back of the pack, Tony Stewart scored the win Sunday at Pocono. Don't try this at home, I'm a trained professional. To push him to the #1 spot in Ryan McGee's Sprint Cup Power Rankings. Okay, time for some final thoughts over our last couple minutes. Got something? Go.
Yeah, one sort of sad note, I guess. In speaking with some people today at Richard Petty Motorsports, they laid off some employees today. There were salary cuts across the board. That company's feeling the fact that Dodge isn't paying their teams right now.
Wow.
I applaud NASCAR. I like these double file restarts, and I can't wait till we get to a track where we get a green-white checker. I think it's going to be exciting.
Everybody's known that NASCAR is a privately owned company, but they do have a board of directors, and it appears clear that the board of directors is anybody who watches the races or buys a ticket. What I'm saying is that the fans are those boards of directors, and I think it's critical that NASCAR's taken that approach and listening to them.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series making its first visit to the Detroit area, speaking of Dodge and some of the other companies, in the wave of certainly overwhelming changes to the American automobile industry. It'll be interesting to see the tone of the conversation about some of those industries in the Detroit area this weekend as the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series visits there for the first time this year. Double file restart at Sonoma. I can't wait to see what that's like late in the race.
That's going to be a little intense. I'm not really looking forward to that. I'll come down right on this thing.
You were telling me how exciting it was. I said, you're going to have to text me after.
I want to watch it. I don't want to be doing it.
I understand.
It's gonna be great. And as far as looking forward to this weekend's race at Michigan, double file restart at Michigan on that big wide track. Ought to be a lot of fun.
Couldn't have been two better tracks to start that, Alan. Pocono and Michigan, they're wide, they're very forgiving as far as where your car works. I think it's going to be great, and it's just such a good rule. Again, I think the biggest thing that came out of that town hall meeting for NASCAR is the fact that they held it at all. They're willing to look at the teams and say, you guys are pretty smart. Let's listen.
And by the way, waiting to hear from NASCAR when the double file restarts are going to come to the Nationwide Series, maybe as soon as Kentucky this weekend. Thanks for joining us for our NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable. Carl Edwards on the Tuesday show. See ya.